G'day guys and gal. Everyone loves Primarchs. Nerds love them, chaos loves them, even bitches love them. The story of incredibly unrelatable demigods with extreme daddy issues is wildly captivating for all, hence everyone knows about each Primarch that died and how they died, as well as the occasional cheeky resurrection that has occurred. For example, Guilliman got shanked in the throat and literally died, only to be put into stasis and revived due to some death magic and snazzy technology. But was the Big G a one-off? Was his death incomplete, allowing for resurrection, or can all of his brothers be brought back in a similar or even wildly different fashion? Today we'll be looking at each of the dead Primarchs, if they can be resurrected or not. For those that are revivable, I'll explain how and why they can be brought back from the dead. Let's get into it! Before we get into the nitty-gritty of each Primarch's resurrection, it's important to explain exactly what a Primarch is, which will provide context as to why they can be revived from being super dead, when very few other things can. A Primarch is a super being, composed of two aspects, the body and the soul. The body of a Primarch is strong, durable and impressive. But without the soul, it becomes nothing more than a big-ass space marine. The soul of a Primarch is the source of the Primarch's special powers, and their ability to alter the course of destiny and fate. The soul is also what emanates a Primarch's aura of command. When Fabius Bile cloned various Primarchs, he got the body back online, but not the soul. As such, these Primarch clones were relatively easy to kill, and they didn't achieve much. The one time he did actually clone a Primarch's body and soul, it was an accident, and almost had very far-reaching consequences. The impressive Primarch bodies came from the Emperor and his bitch-ass unloyal friends' obscenely advanced biomancy, but the soul came from elsewhere, the warp. See, whilst the lore doesn't dive too deep into it, it's clear that the Emperor needed help with the Primarch souls, hence he entered the warp. We don't know exactly what he did whilst in the warp, if he struck a bargain with the Chaos Gods or he stole from them, but I subscribe to the heavily supported theory that the Emperor took 20 minor gods from the warp and placed them inside each of his Primarch vessels. I dive a lot more into this theory, as well as the shitload of evidence to support it in this video here, but I'm mentioning this because warp entities, especially gods, will simply return to the warp when their vessels or physical forms are destroyed. It is very difficult to actually permanently kill one. You can probably see where I'm going with this. Now let's go through each Primarch and discuss if they can be resurrected. The Lion is currently in a coma, or pretending to be asleep so he doesn't have to deal with all the bullshit going in the galaxy. All he needs is for his Prince Charming to sexually assault him in his slumber, just like in the fairy tales, and bam, he'll be back in action. In seriousness, his coma is a result of the Watchers in the Dark who are keeping him out of the game until the need arises. As the Watchers work towards helping the Dark Angels, it's clear that they're doing this for a reason. With the recent escape of Luther, as well as the amassing of both fallen and unforgiven Dark Angels, it seems this awakening is at hand. The second Primarch is so dead and buried that we don't even know their name. As such, I can't really comment on how they could be brought back to life, but I'm sure a bit of flex tape and a Snickers bar would do the trick. Fulgrim is Primarch 3, and whilst he isn't currently dead, the existence of his perfect Loyalist clone kinda shows that the Loyalist aspect of traitor Primarchs can be revived in some format. It's my belief that when a Primarch ascends to become a demon prince, the warp god that was within them is cast out, and the large now empty vessel they have is filled with warp power from their chosen god. Hence why demon prince traitor Primarchs still seem to get their asses kicked by Loyalist Primarchs or even Space Marines. They are now lacking their Primarch special source despite technically being more powerful. Perturabo is currently alive and seems to be a demon prince, so I guess he's in the same boat as Fulgrim. The Khan is an interesting one, as he is one of the few Primarchs to experience true Primarch death and then come back to life. There's 3 ways a Primarch can die. Version 1 is suffering a mortal wound, then being put into stasis or a coma, like how Guilliman and the Lion did. Version 2 is that they are genuinely killed, and an explosion of light emanates out of them. This is a true death, and this is what Primarchs like Alpharius and Ferris experienced. Then there is total obliteration, where the soul/warp god of the Primarch is deleted from existence, like what would happen to Horus. The Khan was killed by Mortarion during the Siege of Terra, and he even did the whole light exploding out of him thing, which I believe is the warp god leaving their now dead body. However, older lore states that the Khan was active after the Siege of Terra, and has been lost to the webway for thousands of years. How does this make sense? Well, when we last saw the Khan, Malcador had taken his body away, and whilst we don't yet know what he does with it, it's clear that it ends with a resurrection. I believe Malcador will use a powerful spell to rebind the Warp God to the Khan corpse and bring him back in action, likely at great cost to Malcador himself. Primarch 6 is Russ, who is alive as far as we know, lost somewhere in the Eye of Terror or even the Warp itself. His motives are unclear, but it's believed that he is searching for a tree of life that could resurrect the mortal form of the Emperor. This tree is probably Isha, the Eldar goddess of healing who is currently Nurgle's testing subject for all these plagues, as she can always cure herself, hence stay alive. But yeah, no resurrection required for the Wolf Daddy as far as we know. Now for Rogueldorn. It's unclear if Roguel is dead or alive. He was last seen being swarmed by Black Legionnaires, and all that was discovered of him was his severed hand. Originally, GW just killed him off, but they love leaving the door open in case there is a wildly profitable reason for bringing him back. If Roguel is dead, his resurrection method would be the same as Ferris's, which I'll detail now because fuck chronological order when it's way more convenient to just skip it. We all know how Ferris died. His rapey brother Fulgrim picked up a dick-shaped sword and he cut Ferris's head off with it. Ferris died big time. Big light show, the whole Warp God leaving his body shebang. His body was then defiled and mutilated by the traders, and then Horus ended up with Ferris's fleshless skull as a trophy. So yeah, Ferris got really fucking dead. Yet Malcador still stated that given enough time, him and the Emperor would be able to bring him back, and the Emperor did so briefly during the War in the Webway. How do they manage this? And does this apply to Roguel as well if he is actually dead? Well, as I said earlier, a Primarch is the body and the soul. The Emperor and Malcador would have to be able to recreate Ferris's Primarch body, his vessel, potentially in an infant form, but could be also as an adult. Then the Emperor would need to use his immense psychic focus and power to call out to the Ferris Warp God and coax him to come back to his vessel. This never ended up happening, as the Emperor and Malcador were so focused on the Horus Heresy, and when the heresy ended, let's just say the Emperor and Malcador weren't really in a good position to perform the resurrection. In saying that, it does seem like they did this with the Khan, as I mentioned before. However, they had the Khan's body intact, whereas Ferris was, not intact. During the War in the Webway, the Emperor was able to summon a shard of Ferris to lead the first iteration of the Legion of the Damned, so that kinda counts as a temporary resurrection. So with Malcador and the Emperor gone, is the resurrection of Roguel, Ferris, and others impossible? Not necessarily. Fabius Bile has displayed the ability to create Primarch vessels via cloning. However, he completely lacks the knowledge of the Warp, or how to coax a Warp God into a vessel. He even admitted that the perfect clone of Fulgrim was a total fluke, and likely was caused by the Fulgrim Warp God wanting to return to the fray to try and do the damage that his rape snake demon counterpart had done. However, there are others who are well in tune with the Warp. Multiple powerful psychers performing a ritual with the help of Fabius Bile's Primarch cloning could theoretically resurrect a Primarch in full. This obviously hasn't happened, as next to no one in the setting understands the nature of the Primarchs or that their resurrections are even possible. Even if they did, they would need Fabius to cooperate with psychers like Eldrad, Tigurius, Mephiston, and others. Would be very challenging to say the least. But yeah, genuinely possible in my books. Our next Primarch is Conrad Curse, who is currently very dead via a low-key suicide. An assassin was sent to kill him, and he let her cut his head off because in one of his visions, the Emperor sent an assassin to kill him. Conrad was so obsessed with his visions coming true that he didn't even try to save his own life. Yeah, Conrad kind of a retard. Theoretically, he could be revived in the method above, but like, who would do that? There's also a theory that the crown he wore as he died had a soul stone in it, but nothing has really come out of that, and no one likes Conrad, so even if he could be revived, no one would actually do it. Sanguinis is next, and he too is quite dead. Despite dying in a similar fashion to the others, Sanguinis' resurrection would be more complicated. Sangi was a different breed of Primarch. His Warp God was actually two Angels of Bal, one light and one dark, that constantly fought. The Emperor somehow merged them and placed them within Sanguinis' vessel, hence why Sangi is simultaneously both the most noble and pure Primarch, whilst also having shit like the Red Thirst and the Black Rage affect his children. The Dark Angel has latched itself onto Mephiston, whilst the Light Angel has latched itself onto the Sanguinor, hence it looks like the Warp God of Sanguinius isn't available right now for classic Primarch resurrection. That doesn't mean he's out of the game yet though. If the Sanguinor, Mephiston, and probably Dante were able to do a three-way fusion dance or chuck on some fucking Patara earrings, then the result would probably be Sanguinius. Primark 11 is in the same boat as Primark 2. Could be as simple as a mega dose of Viagra, or could be as complex as picking up a hot chick at the bar by explaining Warhammer lore to her. Angron is a demon prince and is technically alive, so no need for resurrection. He could do with an abortion though. Guilliman was revived from his half-dead state due to the Eldar Death God's magic, as well as the Armor of Fate, which was a technological marvel created by the Eldar and Belsarius Call. He has actually trained himself to now live without the Armor of Fate, so it appears that his revival is now catch-free. Mortarion is a living demon prince, so no need to bring him back to life. However, the Emperor did say that he had the power to cleanse the demonic tape from Mortarion, likely by burning out Nurgle's influence, then shoving the Warp God back into him. Magnus is a living demon prince as well, so once again no need for resurrection. However, if he was to one day recover his noble shard, it could push him away from chaos. Horus is dead, like mega fucking dead. There's absolutely zero chance of him ever coming back to life in his true Primarch form, as when he was killed, the Emperor also destroyed his soul, which means he destroyed the Warp God that was within him. Fabius Bile actually cloned Horus, but the Horus clone was pathetic and easily killed by Abaddon. Lorgar is a living demon prince, blah 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 blah, you get the fucking point. Vulcan is a perpetual, which means he cannot die unless in the most specific of circumstances. In saying that, he did fall into a vat of pure wah energy and he was atomized and hasn't been seen since, but yeah nah, like he ain't dead. Corvus Corax is a loyalist warp demon that currently stalks Lorgar in the Eye of Terror. As far as I am aware, he is alive. Last but not least, Alpharius, who might have actually been a Megun but is probably Alpharius, was truly killed by Dawn, the old light show and everything. Chaos doesn't know how to revive him, otherwise they probably would have done it by now, so I don't think we'll see Alpharius, who might be Omegon but is probably Alpharius, again. Meanwhile, Omegon, who might be Alpharius but is probably Omegon, is currently in hiding, working with small splinter factions of loyalist Alpha Legionnaires to subtly sabotage Chaos. Seems like every dead Primarch bar Horus can be brought back, but if we're honest, I don't see GW bringing back Sanguinis or Rogueldorn for the next decade or two. Bring on the lion, baby! If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be. Only $1 per month give you access to a boatload of prime, but not friendly for work content. Hit the subscribe button, then hit the real subscribe button for more Resurrected content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!